a professional light worker and a passionate world traveler. 14 years residence in England, Germany, and Switzerland, and spiritual experiences in sacred sites around the globe that changed his life forever. His spiritual journey has been long and eclectic, and among his most formative experiences, 3 years of study at teaching of Rudolf Steiner in England and a training in alternative system of education, the Waldorf schools, initiation as a disciple of Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, now known as Osho, and earning his diploma in astrological counseling from the Astrological Psychology Institute near Zurich after 5 years of study in Germany and Switzerland. Initiation as a priest of Wicca and initiation in the use of the Native American prayer pipe with the medicine man in Arizona. 4 years residence in Sedona and ceremonies in Peru with ayahuasca, frog toxin, and San Pedro cactus. And earning his certificates in mediumship and hands-on healing at Harmony Grove Spiritualist Association. I've known Douglas many years doing work at Harmony Grove, and he's just a very knowledgeable, very interesting man. Let's welcome warmly, please.
So, good morning and welcome to you. It's lovely to see all of you again. And my talk today is entitled, Here Be Dragons. Now, back in the Middle Ages, when they would try to draw a map, and of course a lot of the world wasn't yet known, they would have these areas that were sort of terra incognita, where nobody knew what was out there or even how it was shaped. And they would simply draw things like dragons and sea monsters on these places to say that they were kind of wild and might be full of all sorts of adventures. Well, this carried on into the Renaissance when they started exploring more of the world, but there would be areas still where they wouldn't know what was in that area for thousands of miles maybe, and so they would simply label it, Here Be Dragons. Well, here be dragons today in this room, because I'm going to talk about dragons and you're going to get to meet one. Now, dragons are among the sort of creatures that we refer to as fabulous beasts, and they are also elementals. Now, they don't have all four elements the way the human being does, and in context, creatures of fire are called salamanders, creatures of air are sylphs, fairies, angels, and unicorns. Creatures of water are undines, nymphs, and mermaids. And creatures of the earth are gnomes, elves, pixies, and goblins. Now, when we look at the different elemental forms of dragons, first of all, there is the fire dragon, also known as a fire drake. They tend to be red-orange in color. They breathe fire because they burn away and transmute the lower energies so that the new can come in. They are very powerful creatures. They can also create an etheric wall of fire for protection around you and your home and loved ones, and they can also clear energies. Air dragons, by contrast, are usually sky blue. They also can breathe fire. They inspire you, raise your spirits, and blow away the old and bring in the higher energies. They also clear your mind, because air has to do with thinking, and they create a higher vortex of energy to replace the mental cobwebs, by which I mean things like outworn ideas and outworn concepts. Now, water dragons are a gentle green color. They're smooth, like snakes. In other words, sea serpents, like Cecil. They don't have wings or breathe fire. but they keep the Christ-like energy of love flowing and also help people to develop psychic abilities. And then finally, we have earth dragons that range anywhere from tan to brown-black. They can also breathe fire. They look after the soil, and they have wings. They keep the land clear of lower frequencies. They also maintain the Earth's ley line grid, the energy grid. And it's interesting that to this day in China, ley lines are called lung mei, which means dragon paths. They also help you to ground yourself because they're the earth element, and they can help you with gardening too. Now, dragons have been active since the beginning of time in creation as well as transmutation. Now, the Intergalactic Council decided on their reptilian form in order to enable them to glide easily through the dimensions and enter into confined spaces. A great many are fourth dimensional and are Lemurian in origin. They have great love for humans, and they can act as personal companions to them. Those in higher dimensions, fifth, sixth, and seventh dimensional dragons, help humanity as well as the planet prepare for the new golden age. Now, certain types work with archangels specifically, such as the white crystal dragons of the Archangel Gabriel or the golden orange dragons of the Archangel Metatron. And some are galactic dragons who carry extremely high frequencies of wisdom, such as the dusky pink dragons of Andromeda, or who carry a Christ-like love, or the aquamarine dragons of Neptune, who protect the wisdom of Lemuria and Atlantis. Now, in East Asia, the Far East, dragons are traditionally seen as benevolent beings. They bring fertility, good fortune, protection, as well as rain. Even today, in many Chinese villages, they pray for rain to the village god, who is often seen in the form of a dragon. And traditionally, the emperor of China was also equated with the dragon, and only he was permitted to wear the image on his clothing or ornamenting his residence. You can tell that it's an imperial dragon because it has 5 claws rather than 4. Now, in East Indian teachings, we have, of course, you've probably heard of the Kundalini serpent. Serpents and dragons tend to be fairly easily equatable in symbolism, often interchangeable. The Kundalini serpent lies coiled at the base of your spine, and when it awakens, it rises up the spine, opening up the chakras as it goes. And when it reaches the crown chakra, enlightenment occurs. Now, in the West, conversely, the dragon often guards a treasure, which means its power and its earth wisdom. And the hero has to defeat it. In other words, incorporate the dragon's energy and wisdom. Now, this expresses the more individualistic spirit of the West and its spiritual path. This motif shows up in other things, like, for example, the myth of Jason and the Argonauts. The last trial before they're able to seize the golden fleece in Colchis is to defeat the dragon who guards it. And the motif occurs again frequently in tales from Celtic mythology, as well as the mythology of the Germanic tribes and the Vikings, and in the stories of King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table. In the spiritual tradition of alchemy, which means changing the unregenerate lead of human nature into pure spiritual gold, the dragon symbolizes what's called the great work. Christianity, however, gave the dragon a rather bad rap because they equated this powerful pagan creature with Satan. Now, being a part of our own ancient history, something that is encoded very deeply in our memory banks, dragons are now returning and helping us to make these memories become stronger in collective consciousness and easier to tune into. Communication with dragons through prayer, meditation, and visualization is becoming easier. All you have to do, in fact, is think about a dragon, and one will come to you. And when you pray for their help, angels will hold the vision, and the dragons will manifest them. Now, I have to get into a bit of dragon history. Now, you can consider this as being literal truth, or you can consider it simply as a model of consciousness. In either case, simply regard this as a preparation or a setting of consciousness so that in fact you are now open to cosmic truths. Now, at the birth of the Earth planet, the vision of creation was held in what we think of as the mind of God, and dragons were creatures who also helped to carry it out. Fire and air dragons were needed for the explosion of energy that formed the planet. Earth dragons provided elemental energies for physical manifestation, and water dragons enabled the Christed light of pure love to flow around the planet as it was birthed. This was the first golden age. Now, the second golden age took place when the ancient spiritual beings seeded the African races who were at this point not yet anywhere close to being physical. Crystals at that time were awake and beamed light out to the stars. So the dragons worked with the crystals to help keep the spiritual portals or stargates open so that human beings who were at this point still etheric could, through the crystals, maintain their connections with the stellar realms. The dragons also ensured, on a more mundane level, that the clouds were in the right places to cause rainfall when and where it was needed. Now, the third golden age was that of Mu, centered on an island chain that stretched across the Pacific. Humans at this point were still etheric beings, and the mountains at that time emitted harmonies. Now, each one, depending on whatever content of minerals, metals, crystals, and gems that mountain might have. The dragons would protect these harmonies, and even today they still protect the Earth's mountains. I heard a story once about a man who was in the American Army in Korea during the Korean War, and his men were busy chopping away at a hillside in order to put in something, and an elderly man who was like the village wise man came to him and said, "Don't you realize that you're killing the hill?" Because the formation of the hill, of course, had something to do with the energies. Now, the dragons also formed links between the Earth, Neptune, Orion, Sirius, and the Pleiades. Each of those areas has a hollow center, such as the way that we think of as the hollow Earth, but on a higher plane, in other words, not a physical location. And within this hollow place, in each of these places, there is an aquamarine blue flame of wisdom, love, and healing. And the dragons protect these centers and keep them linked. Now, the fourth golden age was that of Lemuria. Now, this was a continent centered in the Indian Ocean. Humans at that time were at this point fifth dimensional, as well as androgynous, and they treasured nature. Towards the end of the Lemurian period, the human beings first became actual physical beings. Also, late in Lemurian times, the dragons physicalized these crystalline energies that were coming from divine source, the earth, and the many stars and planets. And they would place this liquid crystal into seams within the earth, which then flowed into the ley line system. Now, the Lemurian seed and light crystals that are available today still contain this Lemurian wisdom and healing. And the dragons intended the humans of today to make use of this in this time of transition that we're going into. The fifth golden age was that of Atlantis. Now here, dragons helped to fashion the land, including the Hill of Poseidon. The great temple was built on top of the Hill of Poseidon, and it housed the great crystal, which was something like a very combination advanced computer, energy generator, and intergalactic portal. The dragons protected the crystal and kept the people, the continent, as well as the stargates energetically clear for as long as that was possible. When Atlantis imploded, the great crystal fell into what is today called the Bermuda Triangle, and the water dragons took over its guardianship and protected those who happened to pass through the portal into the other world. At the end of this period, the dragons were offered the opportunity to ascend to the fifth dimension, but they declined, knowing that humans would need their help after 2012. And at the current time, more and more high-frequency and intergalactic dragons are helping with the ascension of the Earth. Now, every one of you has, in fact, a personal dragon who has been with you from the beginning, ever since, in fact, your soul first left the I Am presence many incarnations ago, or oneness with divine source. And your dragon was allocated to be a companion to you, a guide, and a protector, rather like a guardian angel, but on a different wavelength. Now, your dragon is wise, patient, and supportive. It can help you eliminate negative conditions in your life and help you to see things from a higher perspective. You can also call on them for help. But if you do so, please make sure you do so with complete integrity, because dragons do not suffer fools gladly. Usually, your personal dragon will be of the same element as your sun sign. Now, at this point, I'm suppose you're all wishing to get hold of the dragon or to encounter one. So please sit up straight in your chairs so that your spine is fairly straight. And relax yourself totally, and I'd like you to do a few fourfold breaths. So inhale deeply, let it go right into your belly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold it for a count of 4. And now release it to a count of 8. Purse your lips and blow all the air out so that you're completely empty. Let that rest for a couple of seconds. And now take another inhale. Deep to a count of 4. Hold for 4. And now again, blow out the air to a count of 8. Let your lungs empty completely and expel any negative thoughts or energies that might be there. Now one more, take in a deep breath to a count of 4. Hold for 4. And now let it out to a count of 8. Now, we're going to do a visualization so we can go a little bit deeper. And I'd like you first of all to visualize the color red and the number 7. Now it might be a black 7 against a red field, or it could be a red 7 against a black field, or however you want to see this or visualize it. And now it shifts and you're seeing the color orange and the number 6. And now it shifts again. The color changes from orange to yellow, and you see the number 5 against it. And now, as you inhale, you see the color again change from yellow to a beautiful green, and you see the number 4. Now, as you inhale, see the color change from green to a beautiful sky blue, and see the number 3. And now the color begins to shift again into a much deeper blue, into an indigo or midnight blue. And you see, perhaps in white, the number 2 against it. And finally, the color changes from indigo to a beautiful violet, and you see the number 1 against it. And now you're in a very deep, relaxed state and can easily visualize. And now, invite your personal dragon to come to you. Now have a sense of the dragon's approach. Depending on its element, it might be plodding along, or it might be flying, or it could be floating, or even blazing toward you. And now see or sense or intuit the dragon's color or colors. Now the dragon is walking up quite close to you now, and you can feel it its energy as it's quite close. Its heart is radiating out towards you. Now reach over and touch or stroke the dragon's skin. It's likely to feel like finely dressed leather. See if you can sense how your dragon is feeling. And now, mentally, thank your dragon for coming and ask the dragon its name. And whatever name he gives you, just simply accept that, take the first name that comes to you, and honor your dragon by mentally repeating its name a couple of times. Now, your dragon has a message for you, so listen to the dragon and see what that message might be, however it comes to you. He might speak it to you, or you might simply feel it, or intuit it. And now, your dragon invites you to sit on its back. So get up on his back, however you have to do that. Maybe he'll put his head down and lift you, or you may have to stand on a stool or something like that, or a mounting block. So now you're up on top of the dragon's back, and the dragon begins to move off happily with no other purpose than to have you on its back so that you can bond and have fun together. He may be flying through the air or coursing through the sea, but he's moving along and you're moving along on a journey with him. And now I'm going to let you go for a couple of minutes here in silence so that you can just move along with your dragon. The dragon might say something to you, or you might see something, or the dragon might take you into some kind of a scenario, but simply take note of it, and I'll be quiet for the next couple of minutes. Okay. I hope you've been enjoying this. And now you find that miraculously, your dragon is moving right back to the place where you started. So there, the dragon is now on the ground, and you're able to get down. And so thank your dragon for having gotten to know you and taken you on this journey. And now, I'm going to come back up again, starting with the color violet. You don't have to remember the numbers. Now up through indigo. Now it's light blue, sky blue. You feel yourself coming back to consciousness here in the room. Light changes to green, yellow, coming closer and closer to everyday consciousness. Orange. Now the color is red. Feel yourself seated back on your chairs. Feel the energy of the room around you. Prayerful energy that we brought into existence here. Once again, say thank you and farewell to your dragon, and allow your eyes to slowly open. And now remember that your dragon will be willing to come to you whenever you call on him respectfully. And I'll finish with an old Scottish prayer of protection. Sounds very Protestant. From ghoulies and ghosties and long-legged beasties and things that go bump in the night, good Lord, deliver us. Amen. Thank you.